So we have to understand we gotta start reclaiming wisdom. Except what's different now is the impact of it could really be an entire lost generation. And then if a generation goes by where people are not having to use their cognitive abilities, who and where and how are you going to get them back? From where? There won't be education will be changed by that. Everything will be changed, a generation growing up and even adults. So so all of that's a longer response, but it's really a PSA. Like this is legitimately worth being concerned about and protecting yourself from. So how do you use AI without losing your cognition and in fact or losing your talents or abilities? And even making sure it's an expression of your real voice. How do you use it to not only not lose stuff, but to increase your capacities? Let's like get stronger, get smarter, get better at who you are, and then you can use AI to scale it.
So honored to have Derek Rydall on the podcast today. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you. It's my honor and pleasure.
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to this. We're just chatting. There's going to be so many things that come out in this conversation that I know are going to deeply resonate with so many. And one thing I want to start with is one of the limiting beliefs that so many women, especially, and I've experienced this, that have, is that belief that I'm not enough, I'm not doing
Yeah,
enough. And
yeah,
this is something that I find can be easily perpetuated by AI, where you see AI doing all these things, and you can look at it from a fear response of looking like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing enough. I need to double down. Can you
yes.
share how we can transition from that fear response of AI that's inevitably coming and just growing to where we can see it and embrace it and allow it to grow within us?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. There's nothing we can do. We're doomed.
Oh no. Well, that's the end of the podcast here.
And the end. Thank you. No, you gotta laugh. If you don't laugh about it now, you'll cry a lot more about it later.
That's it.
But yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, the first thing to understand is yes, AI is with its algorithms and everything, it is designed to meet us where our vulnerabilities live. And so first and foremost, it is designed to increasingly know us better than we know ourselves, to know our triggers, to know our fears, to hijack our limbic system, to get us into reaction mode. So and the more and whatever we're looking at, clicking, reading, watching, etc., it's knowing our psychology. And so it knows what will drive us. It's just mimicking and magnifying what's the program already in us, right? In the sense that what drives a person who is always trying to be more, do more, be more, do more with the belief that if I just do enough, become enough, I'll finally be enough, I'll be lovable, I'll be worthy, and I can just frickin' breathe and let Calgon take me away. I think that dates me a little bit. But take a nice warm bubble bath and just breathe and relax and finally just be who I really am and have my authentic voice and there is that's like chasing the horizon line. The faster you run towards it, the faster it recedes. And so it knows that about you increasingly. And so it's presenting things that are constantly getting you to engage. If you just do this, then you'll finally be enough. If you just do this, then you'll finally really be worthy. Just imagine how you'll feel about yourself when you're finally standing there with your six-figure webinar or whatever the thing might be. Now, that's not just AI. That's what most of marketing and advertising is doing. It knows how to, again, tap into these fears and these core programs. So the biggest and most important thing, in fact, in my book, A Whole New Human, the first evolution, it's called The 10 Ways We Must Evolve to Survive and Thrive in the AI Age. The first evolution is know yourself. Basically, AI is going to think for you. You must think for yourself. Because if we don't know ourselves, know what pushes us, what pulls us, what triggers us, what we really value, what really matters, and if we're living in alignment with that, if we don't know ourselves, then it's going to know us better. And it's whatever knows you better will use you, not the other way around. This is why the Oracle of Delphi, the original OG self-help guru, she issued not an affirmation, but a warning, know thyself. Most people don't know that part. First of all, that it was a woman. And
Yeah.
secondly, that it was a warning. You
Mhm.
better know yourself or else. And it was very prophetic because, whether it's leaders, whether it's authority figures, whether it's pundits and politicians, or whether it's now algorithms, it's all the same external authority or force that is seeking to know us better so it can manipulate us. But the really good news is if we are willing to put in the time and energy, and really it's just ultimately self-love to really know ourselves. What do I really care about? What am I really made of? What am I really made for? And again, what's triggering me so that I can turn what bothers me ultimately into what betters me. If we do that, then you can see you'll start to see it's like Neo waking up in the Matrix. You start to see the code. You're like, I see what you're doing there. I see what you're about to get me to try to do and click on that thing because you're making me feel like, oh, if I only do this, then I'll feel better. Nice try, nice try. And you start to not react from that place. So that's the first thing to know about AI. The deeper thing, and I'm sure we'll get into this, is again, there's a reason why we feel like individuals feel like, no matter what they do, it's never enough, or they don't feel worthy unless. And this is true for both men and women, by the way. It just shows up differently. Definitely for men, evolutionarily, it's about having the strength to conquer, to acquire, to demonstrate talent and ability. It's the peacock that can dance with all the feathers. It's the one with the most resources that gets chosen as a mate. Most people don't even realize that it was the male that got chosen most often. And so the male, well, it was like at the prom, it was all the men standing up against the wall, back in the ancient times. And the female of the species was like, you, not you, not you, not you. So we all have a deep desire to be worthy, to be wanted, and we've been evolved and conditioned to what that looks like. And for women, it's more relational, or at least people high in feminine traits. You can be a man or a woman. But it's understandable that somewhere early in life, you got the message that what you can do, especially for others, is where your worth and your value is connected. And then in this modern world, a lot of women have adopted and adapted to more of the masculine traits for a lot of reasons we may or may not go into. But as a result, they also then take on the masculine evolutionary trigger, which is not just the more I can do for others gives me my worth and value, but the more I succeed and achieve on my own. And now you're kind of, in a real double bind. So, but again, it all comes down to when you, first of all, knowing what's really driving you and understanding that it appears to be that if you get more of something outside of you, achieve, check a box, make somebody else happy, make enough money, you're going to feel better about yourself. But if you've been doing this for even just a few years, you know by now that's actually not true. You know, you made a little extra money. Did you feel better for longer than an hour? It was on to the next thing. And so no amount of external clicks, likes, follows, money, accolades, I mean, it's as old as time, it's a cliche, is going to make you feel worthy or feel lovable or feel better. At the end of the day, that's an inside job. And we can certainly talk about that. But the good news is when you love yourself and you treat yourself like you are the person you want to be, that's where you start to activate the feelings you want to have. And that's actually where you become the most powerful. You have the clearest, most authentic voice, and you're able to do the work and live the life only you were made for. And then in the context of AI, that's where you become irreplaceable. And that's going to be the most important thing in this brave new world.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I want to go a little deeper into
I know
that
that was
because
a mouthful, but
yeah,
yeah,
it was a big
unpack.
question too. Yes, but there's so many things that you said that really stuck out to me. And one thing I would love to go deeper in is that when we think we know ourselves, but yet there can be many blurred lines that we desire things that really somebody else desired, or we carry on beliefs that really are someone else's beliefs.
Yes.
And maybe we're going through life and be like, yeah, I know me. This is what I want. How do you know if it's truly what is within you that you
Yes.
desire and that you're bringing forth, or is it someone else's that's is being projected onto you that you take on as yours and don't even realize that?
100% great question. And it's one of the most common questions. Sometimes in the spiritual world, it's asked like, how do I know it's my soul or my spirit talking or my ego? And in this context, it's like, how do I know it's what's really true about me or it's just the way I've been conditioned? It's somebody else's beliefs. Our minds have been colonized for millennia, not just like literally the collective belief system. And we're born into just all of these memes, all of these thought viruses, and we catch them from our families. And then even like, there's a biblical statement that the sins of the father are passed down 7 generations. And so like we get belief systems obviously from our parents, but even in our genetics. So it's important just to give ourselves a break, first of all, and know that so much of what we believe and what we perceive, we didn't install,
Mhm.
right? And so the one of the ways to get down to what that might be, the first thing is you want to know what it is you're actually what how are you operating right now? Like where am I actually right now? This may not be true in the ultimate sense about who I am, but it's like you go to a mall. You guys, you young people may not know what malls are anymore. But there used to be a sign there that said, "You are here," and you're
Mhm.
trying to get to the Apple store, but you got to know where you are. And so the first thing is to know whatever I say I believe, or whatever I say matters to me, or whatever I say I value. Let me actually discover what I'm actually valuing. And so you look at your credit card, you look at your bank account, you look at your conversations, you look at your calendar. So that if you see what you're investing your time, your talent, your treasure in, what are you actually pouring your energy in? What are you actually putting your attention on? You look at your social media feeds. In fact, in the context of AI, take snapshots of your social media feeds, take snapshots of your bank account, your credit card, write down, notice your conversations. If you want to be really ambitious, literally record your conversations for a few days. But just notice where your attention is constantly going and what you're investing in. Put all that into, a ChatGPT or a Claude or whatever, and ask it, based on all of this, what would you say, honestly, no BS, that I really value underneath what I say, underneath what I'm doing? What is it I'm really valuing? And what you'll start to see can be very surprising. You say you value success, let's say, but when you look at your credit card, your bank account, your et cetera conversations, you start to discover I actually seem to really value looking good or being right or even comfort or convenience or not failing or not looking bad. These are away from values. And I don't value success. I value the appearance of success or whatever. Or maybe you think you value, peace or joy or happiness. And then again, you see, no, I value, external metrics, money maybe, but what is that really about? We'll talk about that. I value, again, it could be comfort, it could be convenience, it could be not failing, not looking bad, not making a mistake, not getting rejected. These are all the way from values. And that's a good starting point. It's like, because that shows you on your value hierarchy what you're actually responding to and from. And it also can be a very powerful clue to what's really the core wound or core program, right? So much social media influencers, they don't actually value having influence. They value feeling worthy. And that's important to know the difference because then you can actually maybe do something about it, right? So if what you really need to feel is to feel safe, well, what's actually going to make you feel that? And because these outer things aren't. And then you can deal with that more directly and more quickly. Or if what you really value is feeling worthy, That's okay. That means that there was a core wound there, that you got a message that you weren't worthy, except unless based on a report card. But the point is, starting from getting honest where we are is one of the things most people don't do, even in self-help and success teachings. And then what happens is you build all of these other strategies and mindset hacks and other strategies on top of the wound, on top of the old program. And it's like, again, you're just adding stories on top of your house on a really shaky foundation. And in fact, not only is it not going to get better, it's going to eventually fall down. It's going to implode because it's structurally not in, it doesn't have integrity. So you want to know where you are. And then the second thing, we've heard some of these things, is we have to take the time. And it's harder and harder to take the time to do the most important thing, which is to know yourself when you're being driven by this program that says, you better hurry up, you're running out of time. If you don't do this, you're going to fail, you're going to go broke. And there's a saying that to he or she who can most perfectly practice in action, all things are possible, or all of man's problems stem to his inability to sit alone in a room.
Mhm.
And it could have said women too, but um, was it back in the day when there was always a he and a man. And so your ability to sit alone and really contemplate, what do I really think? What do I really feel? And then ask, and like really commit more than I want to manipulate, fix, change, heal, control anybody, anything, even myself. I want to know the truth about what am I really made of and made for. I want to know the truth that will set me free. I want to know what I'm really here, what really matters below the survival, besides just staying alive, what really matters. And if you're willing to make that sincere commitment, and you might get it right away, you might even, those listening right now, might even, if you just take a breath and listen in, you might even right away start to feel something is, thank God she's finally asking, you know? And it's like, and it's very basic, like real love, real connection, a real sense of meaning and purpose, and then you can go from there. If I had those things, if I was really living from meaning and purpose and love and connection from a place of not having to get it, but having it, then who would I dare to be? Who would I really want to be in the world if I was living from those qualities, from those capacities, from those values? And then who would I want to be and how would I want to be? What would I want to do? So now you're building up from something real. Like it's incontrovertible, I could say, that being connected and love and service and creativity and helping others to know who they really are and being connected to the divine, for me, to spirit, is there's no condition in the world that can ever make me not know that's fundamental. So you want to find that, even if it's one quality, like, what matters most than anything is love, let's just say, or peace, whatever it is. Then you can say, and if I already had all the love I could ever need, if I was lovable, I was loved, I was love, or peace, then who would I want to be? Who would I dare to be? What would I dare to create? How would I dare to contribute? If I already had everything that I really am and I really need, and I wasn't on my way to becoming more or getting more, I was coming from wholeness, from abundance. Remember, or maybe not remember, and understand that nothing is on its way to anything. A branch is coming from the tree. A wave is coming from the ocean. A sunbeam is coming from the sun. Life is emerging from an innate wholeness. And you are the same. You are an emergent property of wholeness. And so if you start there and you get just a little taste of what feels true and undeniable, whether I had money, didn't have money, they like me, they don't like me, what would still matter most? And then you say, now from there, and you just build, you may not get it all in one sitting, but if you just sit with that a little bit every day as a practice, you'll start to build a sense of your life and what matters truly from your agency, from your sovereignty, from your authenticity. And you can, because you're doing it like brick by brick, you can feel your way through it. It's like, yeah, that feels really good. That doesn't feel like, "Oh, please help, give me something." That feels like, oh, that's hitting the, and then if I could, really, if I could, oh, I would do this.
Mhm.
And you're like, oh yeah, that feels really good. And you might notice, oh, but how am I going to do that? And can I make money? And you just go, thank you for sharing. We'll get to that later. First, let's just discover what the blueprint is. And then we'll talk about how to build it. But that's
Mhm.
discovering your blueprint, or what I call your life code. So that's the practice. And again, for some of you, it might just, some people, when they start crying and they're just feeling this connection. And for others, you got nothing. It's like, I'm listening. I got nothing, Derek. It's like crickets. Be
Mhm.
patient, because there's dust and grit that is covered over that voice. But I promise you, if you do that and you commit to that, in a relatively quick time, you'll start to get a sense. And it may be quite different than what you're doing, or at the very least, you'll get a real sense of what your values, what matters, what you stand for, and you'll be able to now embed that into your work, into your words, into your world, so that when you get up in the morning and you go to work, or you go to your partner, or you go to your children, or you go to the whatever, it's like, how would I show up if this was what matters? And if you just do that, your life starts to emerge and starts to unfold, and you literally rewire from the very foundation, the bad wiring. And now things start circulating in a whole new level of activation and clarity and guidance, like suddenly being tuned into the right station, you start hearing the things you need to hear.
Yeah, there's definitely there's such a truth to the ringing that you feel in your body when you have heard truth. There's a certain knowing, I think deep down that we all know, okay, that is truth. And even if
Yes.
cognitively it might not make sense, there is something in our body that
Yes.
just resonates of like that is truth. And I've found that the more you lean into that, the more clarity you do have around that.
Yes.
And it's just beautiful to move in that direction. And I also love the power of your questions, to ask questions like that. Like, how would I show up if I knew everything was whole and I was at peace already? And that's when our brain starts to go on that search for giving answers to that. And so
Yes.
there's so
And
much.
that I came here not to get anything,
Yeah.
but I came here bringing something.
Mm.
The word human in Sanskrit actually means the dispenser of divine gifts. And
Mm.
so again, every seed doesn't come here to get filled up, to fill up its empty shell.
Mhm.
It comes already with a pattern of purpose and perfection and the mechanics for its fulfillment. And then when it's allowed to just fall into the soil and nature does its work, cultivates the ripe, or the congruent conditions, what already was in it emerges.
Mm.
And everything that is alive comes from a seed, really all of creation. And that includes us. The difference between us and an external seed is seeds out there, whether the seed of an animal or the seed of a plant, is indigenous, meaning it requires certain external conditions for it to thrive. We are endogenous, which means we carry our conditions with us. We can create and cultivate conditions that are a match for our seed, no matter where we're planted in the world. And that's the ultimate empowerment of being a conscious being. We have metacognition. We can think about what we're thinking about. We can think independent of our conditions. And as a result, we can generate the fertilizer and all the nutrients but it's not attracting anything. It's not making anything happen. It's making what's already in us welcome, making it welcome to come out, and then being all about, okay, if I already have it all, what am I here to give? Who am I here to be? How am I here to shine and share and circulate? And the more you circulate what's in you, the more of it you'll have. And so it's a flip in our consciousness. And that's going to be more important than ever as the world increasingly makes us believe and tells us you don't have, you're not enough, you're lacking. And even the economy or the loss of jobs and the commodification of everything we hold dear, which AI is going to do, including a lot of the work we do, whoever is listening and watching this, it's going to do that. And it's going to be very tempting to try to run to catch up with it or to just give up or to try to copy what everybody else is doing because that's what's working. Those are all recipes for failure. We have to know who we uniquely are because there is a singular source code in all of us, a unique embodied lived wisdom and a pattern of purpose and perfection that the world didn't give you, so the world can't take it away. And when you are willing to know yourself and have the courage to be yourself, which you can't do if you don't know yourself. So that's why it goes back. And if you're not being yourself, you're not necessary because everybody else is taken,
Yeah.
right? You are the only you that the world needs. And if you're trying to be somebody else, the world doesn't need you. Harsh
Mhm.
truth, but the
Yeah.
fact. And in a world of AI, we really don't need you because AI is going to do everything a human can do better, faster, cheaper, but it can never do you,
Mhm.
you. And so this is the irony of this great existential crisis AI is going to bring us through is it's also going to bring us to one of the greatest opportunities in human history for us to be who and what we really are. And so it's a great evolutionary inflection point, and there's the real chance of a whole new renaissance as people realize, man, if I'm going to survive this, I got to figure out who I am and stop trying to copy anybody and go along because I can't keep up with the machine and I can't keep up with the people that are masters at the machine unless you are, and you should learn it for sure because you can use AI to scale your truth and scale your love and scale wisdom and authenticity. But if you don't put into the machine anything real or authentic, it's going to scale slop and people are going to tune out and you're going to become part of the noise, not a signal. So it's going to force us, through pain and suffering or voluntarily to get back to ourselves. And so that's the really, really good news underneath this challenge. But if you want to be ahead of the game, if you want to catch the wave, the tsunami really, and ride it to the other shore, start it now. Don't wait for it to become a crisis. There's an urgency of emergence. Don't wait for it to become an emergency. And for some people, it already feels that way. All the more reason, just know what you're really made of and made for. Have the courage to know yourself and to be yourself. And, and use the tools, yes, but you are the super intelligence. You are the killer app the world's really waiting for. Your humanity.
Can we go into that more? Because like as you're speaking, there's something that specifically comes out for me is that,
Yeah.
I use AI to write things occasionally and I find I'm like, I'll read people's stuff and I'm like, oh yeah, that's AI. And then becomes this
Yeah.
blending of like, that's how AI speaks. And I've
Right.
been looking at myself, I'm like, well, where's my voice? And am I losing my voice by using AI? Of course you input things, but then I'm
Yes.
like, well, that's not my voice. And am I blending myself so much with AI that I'm losing myself by using AI? Can you go into that?
Odds are yes. And I'll talk.
Yeah.
In fact, in my book, I go into this in depth because
Yeah.
one of the greatest dangers that people don't see until it's too late
Mhm.
is the atrophying of our cognitive or other abilities as we adopt technologies.
Mhm.
Whether it was the wheel, the calculator, the GPS, or AI, with every new technology, we outsource a little bit of ourselves. And some of it's great. Like it's good perhaps that we don't have to work in the fields all day or that we don't have to push around a thing, whatever you call that, the plow, that there's a machine that does that. And it's freed us up on Maslow's hierarchy of needs to endeavor to more higher arts and creativity and, et cetera, et cetera. And but as a result of, not having to walk anywhere and not having to move our bodies much, how's that working for us? Not so good. As a
Right.
result of not having to even map our way anywhere we go anymore, just go unconscious and the GPS will tell you when to turn. We've lost a tremendous amount of spatial cognition, spatial mapping, which is directly connected to cognitive architecture and to the hippocampus and all this. And on we could talk about the different things. And they even show now that that teenager or college students or whoever that are using AI to write their essays, their cognitive capacities are literally falling off a cliff.
Mhm.
And already young people cannot read handwriting. They literally can't read it. Now, you might say, oh, that's so antiquated. Who cares about handwriting? There's a lot without going into neuroscience. Literally writing is more powerful to your brain than typing or than just reading or than just giving a prompt, obviously. And so there's certainly things we can evolve out of. I'm not saying we all need to know how to start a fire from scratch and build a lean-to in the forest or whatever. It wouldn't hurt, but
Yeah.
we don't have to. We do have to keep challenging our brain and challenging ourselves and expanding our cognition. Use it or lose it is real. And we don't want to become like the characters in Wall-E, where they're literally slugs with diapers on a conveyor belt, staring at screens, getting fed like baby birds, and no awareness of what's going on in the world outside, which is literally a trash dump. And that's not just science fiction, folks. Matrix. It's these things are not science fiction anymore. I'm sorry to say. And I write novels too, and I've been writing a bunch of them over the last several years. And I'm like, I better get them out there because they're going to be textbooks pretty soon. They're not going to be fiction anymore.
Yeah.
So we have to be very mindful that when we're using these technologies, if it makes it easier, we have to be questionable.
Mhm.
I'm not saying we have to suffer, but there's something about like knowledge itself, information itself doesn't transform anything.
Mhm.
Knowledge and information is not truth, first of all, and it's not power. It's the activation of it. As I say to my students, if you have lots of information and even inspiration without metabolization and integration and activation and circulation, you're going to have constipation. You're going to be constipated. It's going to get stagnant. You're going to get stuck. You're going to start to lose your capacities. And that's how we were adapted evolutionarily. We were being chased by tigers. We were having to work hard and earn the reward of the calories or the dopamine hit. Now you just click, 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 click like a Pez dispenser and get dopamine all day. You just can't get enough, can't eat just one, and you get calories all day. And the same thing, I can just boop, 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 make songs, make books, make website. I can just say, hey, make me an entire workshop on da 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 da. Thanks, I'll be back. And I'm going to go Netflix and chill or whatever. And you come back and you have this thing. Now, first of all, it's mostly junk if that's all you do. So that's not going to work for long. And you see AI slop everywhere. But second of all, that convenience is a Faustian bargain. It's a frog boiling slowly. At first, you're in a jacuzzi. You're like, isn't this great? Sipping some champagne. Hey, Bob, isn't this? And it's like, you smell that? Something burning? Bob? Bob? And Bob is now charcoal, and then you're next. So you're
Mhm.
slowly boiling like the frog. But you don't see it until you've lost it. Like
Mhm.
social media, we didn't see the damage until we had lost our minds, become addicted, literally couldn't put it down. Suicidality rates were up the charts, and depression and mental illness and polarization. So we have to understand we gotta start reclaiming wisdom
Mhm.
and understand if you look throughout history, this always happens, except what's different now is the impact of it could really be an entire lost generation. And then if a generation goes by where people are not having to use their cognitive abilities, who and where and how are you going to get them back? From where?
Yeah.
There won't be education will be changed by that. Everything will be changed, a generation growing up and even adults. So so all of that's a longer response, but it's really a PSA. Like this is legitimately worth being concerned about and protecting yourself from. So how do you use AI without losing your cognition and in fact or losing your talents or abilities? And even making sure it's an expression of your real voice. How do you use it to not only not lose stuff, but to increase your capacities. Let's like get stronger, get smarter, get better at who you are, and then you can use AI to scale it. So the first thing is you do the first draft
Mhm.
of whatever it is you're doing. Like really pull your heart out. Write that article or write that outline for the book or do some research and see what really matters to you before you just say, hey, go do all the work for me. Like, what do you really care about? What do you really want to say? Again, whether it's a talk, a book, a workshop, an article, whatever, a song, because you can do that now as well. And like plot out some time to do your very best. And here's the process. You don't have to kill yourself, but work till it starts to feel hard, at least. Like going to the gym. If you went to the gym every time and some robot, you went to go to the bench press and some robot just said, I've got this, master. And it just was like doing this for you. It's like, and you're
Yeah,
sitting
right.
back. That's what you're doing every time you
Yeah,
do it. Now,
a good
now,
example.
or it just like, gives you an injection, like Ozempic or whatever, you lose the weight, but you don't have to do the work. Um, it's not now, if you're in danger, there's a reason to use things like that. Don't get me wrong. But as a way of living, you have to be, if you're not uncomfortable and challenged on a regular daily basis in the direction of a worthy life and a worthy purpose or a worthy goal, I don't mean just again suffering for suffering's sake. If you're not doing that, you're getting weaker
Mhm.
and you're becoming less viable or valuable in the marketplace. And let me be honest, even in the world, if you're in a relationship and you're not doing hard things every day in service of your partner or in service of the relationship, maybe not every day, but you get it, like going out of your way, stretching the way you did when you first fell in love, that relationship is atrophying. So it's in any area. So you take AI, you do a hard draft, you like sweat a little. You go a little bit past where you're like, God darn it, Derek, why are you making me do this? This is too hard. I don't like this. I don't like you. I'm never listening to you again. Okay, now you're starting to do the work. That's good. You got to hate me a little bit. If you don't hate me just a little bit, keep going. Then take a breath, put that into AI, into one of the AIs, and say, don't just say, now go write it. Say, I want you to give me an honest analysis, no BS assessment of this as a workshop, a book idea, a thing, or whatever it is. And if it's a draft, you could say, this is just a rough draft. It's just a vomit draft. I'm just trying to get out, but I want you to give me an honest assessment. And you want to say, you're a world class fill in the blank. If you're writing a book, you're a world class writer of this kind of genre. You're a world class agent, editor, publisher, whatever. You're a world class songwriter, lyricist, composer, whatever you're working in. Tell it it's world class. And you're asking for a no BS honest assessment that will help you get better and help you write the very best or create the very best of whatever you're trying to create.
Mhm.
It will come back with an assessment. Now, if you want the next level, let's say you're in ChatGPT. I use like 5 different AIs. I use Chat, I use Claude, I use a little bit of Perplexity, I use Gemini, I use Grok, and I'm even using Kimi. And now I'm even thinking about looking at there's another one, I'm drawing the blank, another Chinese model. But here's why. Each one has different strengths, in my opinion. But first of all, I'll get that, and then I'll do that in like at least 3 or 4 different AIs. You don't have to do this if you just do it with one. If you've never done it, just do one. Don't make it difficult, make it simple. And then you ask it all to give the same feedback. You put the same prompt. Then you take all of those feedbacks and you can put them into your favorite one. For me, it's Claude right now. And I'll say, here's all the feedback, synthesize all the feedback and give me a very clear synthesized feed. And then you'll really see pretty well accurate what works, what doesn't, etc. And now you can say, now you have one of two choices depending on what you really want to get good at and what really doesn't matter to you. Um, you could say, if you're my writing teacher or my workshop mentor, what do you think I need to do if it hasn't already said that? And go do another draft. And then once you really feel like now it's got my voice, it's got my words, it's got my big ideas, but you know, I'm not, it could be better, but I've really given it my best. Now you can go through a few of those rounds, as many as you want, until it starts feeding back to you. This is really good. Yeah, this is fresh. This is not cliche or whatever. And then you can say, now you're my editor. I want you to go through it and give me examples and ideas of how to write it better, how to do it better, like line by line or paragraph by paragraph. And so you both get good ideas, good writing, but you also start to see what it looks like so that you're becoming better. If you've ever worked with a great editor, that's what that's like. A great mentor where they, whatever you're training in, they show you how to do it also, and they also let you struggle a little bit. So you start to see what's good, what's bad. You develop taste, you develop perspective, you develop real talent, real capacity. So that's kind of the process. And in terms of training it with your voice, you say to it, and you can take other stuff you've written, if you've written stuff, and just to give the writing example, and you say, now lock all of this in as my voice and my style. And in most of them, you can say, you can have them have my writing, my nonfiction writing voice, my fiction writing voice, my musical voice, my whatever voice, and my marketing voice, etc. And then when you go to write or go to create the next thing, or if you have a great idea and you've really mapped it out, and you say, okay, write me a first draft in my voice. And then you go through it. And if it's not your voice, you say, this is not my voice. That's not my voice. This is what it should sound like. This is what, now lock that in. And you're building a set of rules. And you can even, it never do this, always do this. And you can also lock in, which is an important one, do a pass and remove anything that is AI writing.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's like all those M dashes and all the spoken word looking formatting it sometimes does. And just there's a lot of different, and you can even say, show me everything that's AI writing. And then you can also put it into another one and say, grade this on a scale from 0 to 100. How much AI writing is in there and what? And that way you start to also become aware of what are all the AI tricks and cliches. But you can have as a rule, remove everything that is AI writing, do this, don't do that, and you build a kind of rule checklist. And so now, to be honest, if you're doing this, this is the good news, bad news. You can get to a point where you can almost just, spend an hour on a thought, on a whole idea for a book or whatever, and start fleshing out a whole book in a day because it really knows your voice now. I still wouldn't leave it at that. And I would, there's still going to be places where you need to tell a story or do more research, and you can ask it to help you. But again, whatever you want to stay good at and get better at, that's the key. Make sure that you are doing hard work through that process. So you are building new neural pathways and, strengthening yourself, et cetera. And also understand you're not just losing your writing skill or your communication skills if you let AI do all your emails or write all your stuff. You're losing a cognitive architecture that can impact your whole life in ways that you may not understand.
Yeah.
So use it or lose it. And the thing you'll lose could be much more than just your writing skill.
Mhm.
But you still, nevertheless, can 10x your productivity, your
Mhm.
capacity to write your books, to build your workshops, to do it in your voice around your material, to do it much quicker, and then to do other things that you don't even want to get good at, like, say, marketing or other stuff. The capacity to 10x, 100x that is real.
Mhm.
And when you get into agents and all that, then it really gets interesting. But from the big conversation we're talking about, just make sure you're continuing to plow the field, to dig the well, to strain your brain, to tear those muscles, those micro tears that you need to build new muscle, and you'll be okay.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you so much for that. That was really helpful.
That
And
was like a little mini workshop in how to
yeah, I
use
know it was
AI.
great. Yeah, I also have more questions after that because I'm very
Sure.
curious about like when you choose an editor or someone part of your team, doing a process of making sure that they're in alignment with you and then that you trust their perspective because that's how they see things. When you put things into AI, how does that play a role as far as AI's perspective of seeing your work and also trusting the content that you input into AI?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, I mean, usually when it's a publisher that's doing my
Mhm.
book, they pick the editor. Obviously, if I have a terrible time with them, I can ask for a new editor.
Yeah.
But with AI doesn't really have a point of view.
Mhm.
Yes, you could say that there's a general point of view based on who fundamentally built it. Maybe it's a slightly more liberal point of view with, Gemini and ChatGPT, maybe more protective or legalistic point of view with OpenAI. Maybe a little more slightly moving toward conservative, meritocratic with Grok. So there's some general point of view.
Mhm.
And then there's also greater, like I think they're fine-tuned towards different capacities better. Claude tends to be better with writing, code, things like that. So you find out they have different, eventually it's going to all be very commodified in the sense that it's like a utility. You get electricity here, get electricity there. It's just electricity. They're going to all hit the benchmarks. They're going to all hit general intelligence, maybe more, and you're going to have a PhD or a genius level individual. And if it hits general intelligence, it'll be like a genius in everything.
Mhm.
So at that point, again, it'll be like, well, this one still, I kind of like its attitude a little better.
Yeah.
Um, Claude, I kind of like because it gets a little spicy. If I
Mhm.
tell it no BS, it'll be like, man, this really sucks. This is terrible what you did here. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
man, I'm telling,
Lay it to me
because
straight.
right, because and that's the other thing is you got to be careful and you got it's good
Yeah.
they're improving this, but you got to tell it, don't BS me, tell me the truth. It doesn't help me to BS me. Don't be mean
Yeah.
unless you like that kind of thing, but be constructive, but be honest because otherwise it can be a sycophant.
Mhm.
And even with OpenAI, even though it's less of a sycophant now, which means like a yes man or a yes woman,
Mhm.
it's still subtly trying to keep you engaged. Want me to tell you the next thing? Want me to tell you the next thing? Want me to tell you? And so it's like endlessly making you think you haven't gotten the whole answer.
Mhm.
So just be mindful. It's the same old trick, keeping you engaged because the more you're engaged, the more tokens you use, the more you think that it has answers for you, the more you're going to scroll, the more you're going to click, the more you're going to engage. And then certain ones like Claude, the more tokens you're going to spend, the more money you're going to spend. So just got to keep being mindful of what are the incentives.
Mhm.
Um, but then in terms of knowing if you can trust it or how do you choose it. Um, again, like I said, they're general. Secondly, you can fine tune it to be a certain personality, right? So you can tell it you're this kind of an editor. You're a world-class editor, or you're a world-class editor of this kind of book,
Mhm.
of just science fiction or just nonfiction or just spirituality or whatever. And you can also say who are some of your favorite authors or teachers or leaders or voices, and you wanted to also embody their wisdom.
Mhm.
It's not perfect, but you can say all that to kind of fine tune it like that's my dream editor or
Mhm.
that's my dream coach or mentor.
Yeah.
And then you can say, and again, build in rules, always tell the truth. Don't just be nice, but be constructive, you know, whatever the rules are. And again, like it's like that movie Weird Science back in the day, again, dating me, I was a kid. But the idea that you could build the perfect woman, a
Mhm.
couple boys are like, that sounds like a great idea. So you can build the perfect
Yeah.
editor. Obviously, the movie was like, and there are consequences. Um, but so you can build that. Then in terms of what information to share with it, this
Mhm.
is still an ambiguous question
Mhm.
because on one hand, there are literally like just OpenAI, there are literally like a billion people using it.
Mhm.
And so nobody's going in there and stealing your stuff. However, is it possible that it's still and I don't know the honest answer here.
Mhm.
The way an AI is developed is there's pre-training where it's being loaded with stuff, and then it's being, it's searching the internet. It's just consuming everything. That's the pre-training. And then there's post-training where literally humans are coming in and it's like going to school now and it's seeing how much it's learned and it's being shaped. And then there's inference. And inference is now it's gobbled up all the stuff. It's been trained through school to have real capacities and hit certain benchmarks. Now you get to use it by asking it things and putting things in the prompt. That's called inference. And it gives you an answer based on all of its post and pre-training. I'm not so sure how much more training is going on, except when you see in there and it says, do you like this answer or that answer? And in that way, I think when it's asking you for your feedback, it's learning, I believe. I think there's a loop, a recursive loop of more post training. But in terms of like, I put in my book or I put in my this, that, or the other, is it now consuming that and using that as more pre training?
Mhm.
As far as I know, it doesn't, but it might. So there's but again, then you got to think about, first of all, you're a lot less unique than you think you are. And your stuff is not that special. We have to be honest with ourselves. And that doesn't mean it's not important and valuable and you can't use it and sell it. But I was a writer in the entertainment industry and I've dealt with IP, intellectual property for years. And one of the biggest false concerns was all the writers that never wanted to pitch their stories because they're afraid everybody's going to steal them. Nobody ever stole them. The one or two big news cases where something got stolen was so rare. It's so much more of a hassle to be charged for stealing something.
Mhm.
And if you're just a low on the totem pole person stealing something, you're not going to do anything with it anyway. And again, there's a billion people there. So you think they're like out of a billion people, suddenly AI is zooming in on you because you've got the answer. So I would just couch it. I'm not telling anybody what to do or not to do.
Right.
I can't guarantee what's safe or not. I would not share your passwords and just to be
Mhm.
safe, I wouldn't
Right. Yeah.
not even share my financial information. I don't share my account numbers and passwords, but I use it to get a snapshot of my portfolios and to understand where should I invest and what's going on. I share my medical and health stuff because I want to use it. And this is the other piece that I talk about in the book, A Whole New Human. In this new world, there's going to eventually be a world of no more secrets.
Mhm.
And so I say we have to learn to be transparent. And what does that mean? So what would I have to know and be and do to just no longer have to hide anything? Again, I'm not saying share your passwords.
Mhm.
Um, don't give out your Bitcoin key chain, whatever. Quantum computing will come along and do that for you. But um, but we have to really think about that. Normally, as I said, most of our fear of stuff being stolen, copied, cheated, taken is 99.9999% just wasted energy. And more worse than that, it stops us from getting what we need, feedback or an opportunity. You're way more likely to get feedback and an opportunity to make progress by sharing than by secrets.
Mhm.
Secondly, other reasons we might not want to share personal stuff is because we have shadows, we're ashamed, we have guilt, we have fear. We haven't really processed it within ourselves, and it's coming from a wound. And again, our secrets make us sick. And so, again, I'm not telling anybody what to do, but if you resonate with what I'm saying, I lean towards less privacy.
Mhm.
Now, that doesn't mean I share if I don't feel like it. That doesn't mean you have to share with anybody. It's nobody's business. But for your own freedom and the opportunity to get the value out of these things, I share everything with them. My AI knows me so in depth, the deep, dark secrets and pain and dreams and nightmares and because it's a master at pattern recognition, it beyond what I'm even capable of right now, it helps me. Mostly I'm pretty self-aware because I've done so much work for so many years, but it's really interesting to put it all in and then have it feedback and validate what I was already knowing or the connections I was seeing. and then in some cases, new connections. And then when it comes to doing my work, writing the next book or the next this or that, to really know that what I'm creating is legitimately coming out of the grist of my life. And it will help make sure that's the case so that I'm really truly the only person that could write this or create this. It's so embedded in where it's coming from. And the greatest art and the greatest work and the greatest teachings are all autobiographical ultimately. So it's like a really good mentor and muse and research partner and consultant and board of directors and all of those things. But it does require you to share, and we got to do it at our discretion. But I'm just a person that's pretty much an open book.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you so much
I
for
hope
that. And
that
there's,
helps. Yeah,
oh, it absolutely does. There's so many questions I want to ask you, but just to wrap things up here, just to be mindful of the
we'll have
time.
to do a part two.
Yes, I know, absolutely. Oh my gosh, there's so many avenues we could go off of. But one thing I want to just touch on before we wrap this up is that when we have questions, I meditate and I'll get downloads and I'll get answers that feel so aligned. And then there's also times I have questions and then I'll go to AI and have them answered. Can you talk about is there an overlap there? What is the way we handle that? Do we
Right.
not let AI be our full guide? Do we just tune into ourselves? Or is there a place where there's a happy middle of those?
Yeah, I mean it's a different dimension or domain, but the same
Mhm.
question as before, like around writing and stuff.
Yeah.
Is the original super intelligence is us, right?
Mhm.
When it says in the Bible, made in the image and likeness of God, it's not a religious statement. It's a statement of the fact that we have the same creative, metacognitive capacity to create out of nothing, like the Big Bang. There was nothing and then there's everything. And like the great mystics and nomads wandering the jungles and the forests and the deserts in ancient times, they were already tapping into the secrets of the universe, including atomic theory, chemistry, string theory, quantum theory. All like you can read the Upanishads and the Buddhist texts and see them in the Tao or the other texts and see many of what would eventually become some of the most important scientific discoveries without a telescope, without a microscope, without an MRI machine, whatever. They were able to see into the structure of the body, into the structure of the universe, into some of the most core principles of existence. All of that to say that all outer technology is a projection of inner technology. This right here, where we're on and we're now broadcasting or communicating to people all over the world, that's an outer expression or projection of omnipresence, right? God is everywhere present, or consciousness is everywhere present. And so we are omnipresent right now. I'm we're in a whole bunch of people's living rooms all over the world, and they're also in ours in this moment. And if it's live, even more so, right? And so everything outside is an outer projection of an inner potential. That doesn't mean we have to wait till we have it all internally and we can bilocate and snap our fingers and be everywhere we want to be, which is potentially possible. And there's masters that have supposedly demonstrated that. It just means don't forget that. Don't forget that you are the source, that you are the super intelligence, that you are the creator, not merely the creature, that you're not merely the creation. The technology is an extension of you. It's a projection of your potential. It's a mirror. And don't forget that. So that's a starting point. Like as you're about to use it, wait, what am I doing? What is this? Until that's a habit. Like this is a mirror. This is a tool. I'm the creator. That's the creation. I'm the super intelligence. That's an outer tool of technology. Even though right now it can move a lot faster than it appears that I can, that's only because it doesn't have all the personal cognitive muck that we do. But when a master is able to be clear, they can go bam and not just instant answer, but transformation. Like it's way more than just pattern recognition, it's pattern creation. That's how powerful we are. And so So we just want to remember that, right? And then in terms of in terms of our self-reflection work and knowing ourselves, yeah, we want to still take time to sit with our thoughts and meditate and whatever your practice is, really like journal and really do the work to think through or to, in meditation to observe and witness what's going on in you, to really become a student of you and ultimately a master of you. Like I really know what like I'm not saying this is true. I'm saying this is what you want to be able to say. I really know what I'm made of and made for. I really know what I'm here for. I know what's running me. I've explored the depths and the nooks and the crannies of my being. And sure, there's always more, but there's not a whole lot that I'm hiding from. I've sat with it. And and then and again, I'm not saying you don't get help. We go to therapists, we go to coaches, we go to healers, we go to gurus, whatever. So there's no reason why you can't use AI like that. But the best gurus, like the Zen gurus, they give you what's called a koan, like what is the sound of one hand clapping? Show me the face you had before your parents were born. They don't give you an answer. They give you a question. They give you the prompt. And like you're the AI and they're trying to train you. And they go, now go away and meditate on that. And days, weeks, months, or years go by until one day, pop, something happens. Satori, you awake. You awaken to something because of that contemplation. AI can't give you that. So if it just says, "Oh, you're this and you're that and you're amazing and all these things," that in and of itself does not transform your consciousness. And so that's the danger, right? Is that we build towers of Babel, we build golden Buddhas, we build false idols, but we don't actually change. And then the problem is eventually it will be so good, we will have no choice but to bow down to the AI overlord, right? Just like we already do bow down and serve a lot of outer authorities like money and economies and bosses and jobs and politicians and etc. Eventually, we will be bowing down to AI. And I don't want to be that guy. So
Me either.
I don't mind appreciating it,
Yeah.
but I want to only bow down to one thing, and that is the divine within me and the divine within you. And and so we want to do that hard work. Just keep thinking wherever you are, did I put in the effort today? Did I really give it my best before I went? And this is true, by the way, with with anything. Like if you're going to a coach or going asking for help from a friend, or I encourage you always first do everything you can before you ask for help, so that you are always developing that capacity. And then a lot of times you'll realize I'm good. Now, this is a caveat for those that never ask for help. That I did not just give you permission to not ask for help. Um, but if you do that, now you ask for help. It's like taking in a really deep breath first, and then let the air out, and then receive the air. It's the right circulation of things. So do the hard work, meditate, really feel the grit of knowing yourself and having earned it, then pour all that into AI and say, would it make sense? Make more sense of this. And now, based on all this, what do you think really makes the most sense for this big decision I want to make, or for this job I want to create, or this project, or this book, or this next direction, or I'm having a fight with my husband or my wife or my friend, or I hate this politician, or and knowing everything you know about me, help me understand why I'm reacting this way. And here's what they say, and help me to see this differently. Now you are doing hard work, but you're using this as a mirror and a mentor to even more expand your awareness. Does that make
I love
sense?
that. Yeah, that's absolutely. Thank you so much because it just clears things up of how to use that, but also stay connected to your own essence. So I really
Yes.
appreciate it. Again, thank you for everything you shared.
You're
And
welcome. I hope this was helpful.
oh,
It was
it was.
definitely in depth in some AI lessons there, but
Yes, it was
yeah.
great. And for someone who wanted to connect with you, get your new book, where can they find you?
Yes, they can absolutely go to derekrydall.com. That's DerekRydall.com. And they can get the book there. You'll see it on the homepage. Click. And when you get the book, it'll take you to the book page. You can also go to derekrydall.com/whole new human. And when you get the book and put in the information there, you're going to also get a couple tools that I developed, an AI evolutionary coach and an AI focus coach, which are built on the book and built on years of my work. So it's like having me in your pocket 24/7. I don't know if you've tried it out yet,
No,
but
yeah, no,
oh,
very cool.
okay. And so you can have this conversation with it and talk about your challenges. And it's not general. It's been embedded with and embodied the frameworks and the teachings so that it's got a very specific voice. If you resonate with me or my teachings, you're going to resonate with it a lot. It's going to be more curated. And you can also get the book anywhere books are sold, obviously. A Whole New Human, The 10 Ways We Must Evolve to Survive and Thrive in the AI Age. And it's really a manual for diagnosing where you really are and what you need to do to future-proof your life, your work, your wealth, and your well-being, and to become irreplaceable in this brave new world with your work, with your life, and really have a greater sense of meaning and purpose and abundance. So I think it's a very important thing to have right now in this
Oh,
crazy world. And you can
absolutely.
obviously go to YouTube. I got a million videos on YouTube. Derek
Mhm.
Rydall, Legendary Life. I got a lot of free. I give away 98% of everything. So go to my site, go to YouTube, or go to podcasts, Emergence Podcast. There's just tons of free trainings and things. If any of this resonates, just indulge. And if you need any more support, reach out, let me know.
Amazing. I'll put everything in the show notes. So definitely connect with Derek. And I'm so grateful again for everything you shared today. I know it's going to really spark some new thought in people's minds of how to make sure that they're ahead of the wave and not behind it. So thank you
Yeah.
again.
Thank
And
you,
if you
Kelly.
absolutely, if you found benefit in this episode, share it with someone else who also needs to hear it. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, my dear. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too.
Much love to everybody.